This has got to be one of the craziest JJK chapters of all time. It doesn't feel real at all. It feels like we're in a dream right now because Yuji not only activated domain expansion, but at the end of the chapter, Sukuna suddenly wakes up at a train station in his Yuji Cuneiform alongside Yuji. It's almost like Yuji's just defeated him off screen and he's put Sukuna in the afterlife. But the craziest part of all, yes, Yuji activated domain expansion, probably one of the most anticipated moments in the entire series, the one that everyone has made videos about, everyone's made theories about. It's finally here. Yuji's domain expansion is actually here, and it really seems like this is the climax of the Yuji vs Sukuna fight. It does seem like this is where it ends. So let's just get into this. This is crazy, you know? Be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. Less than 10% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you love JJK, I promise you won't regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to the special great members of the channel. Let's get right into this. So I'm just gonna jump straight into the domain part. Yuji using domain expansion, and I just finished reading the leaks, you know, I gave it a couple minutes to let everything sink in, and still it feels unreal because that one page that was coming, you knew the domain expansion when it flashes back to Gojo teaching Yuji about domain. And of course, the main issue of Yuji right now is simply that he can't land his attacks because Sukuna's just dodging them. So of course, what's the one way you can actually fix this issue? What's the one way you can make it so your attacks are all guaranteed hits? It's a domain expansion where everything is a sure hit, and you also get a general power boost, a buff to your own abilities. This is exactly what Yuji needs right now because Hana and especially Todo were just taken out of the fight. Yuji no longer has assistance. He's 1v1ing Sukuna right now, and he is about to absolutely rock his world like a hurricane. Now of course, I will talk about all the possible domain expansions later on in the video, but I do want to talk about some very important things that came before it. For one, it's the fact that Sukuna just dodged Jacob's ladder or just tanked it. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but still, this was the one way I didn't want it to happen. There's not even a binding vow or anything. Sukuna simply tanks it, I guess, because Hana's weaker now, even though Sukuna's so far weakened. I'll be honest though, this chapter was just so wild, and especially the ending, it was so great that it really just sort of, at least for now, is making me forget about all the bigger issues with Sukuna just tanking it and dodging it, or seriously just running through the actual Jacob's ladder as if it was nothing. And as a matter of fact, even after the Jacob's ladder, he got his reverse curse technique back thanks to the black flashes, and he was better than before after getting hit by the Jacob's ladder. I guess it makes sense because Hana's missing one of her hands, and I did talk about this in the stream yesterday, that perhaps because Hana's missing one of her hands, it's going to make the Jacob's ladder weaker, even though it doesn't really make that much sense, but I guess because you can't do the full hand signs, which is just grabbing the ladder itself, the trumpet. But regardless, all of my issues with that aside, I still think overall it was good for Sukuna to get back to his peak. Even though Sukuna's still nerfed and he's still got a lot of output nerf and such things, Sukuna did get his reverse curse technique back, meaning that his heart should be back to normal, his tongue should be back to normal, we see all of his skin healed, and of course both of his arms most importantly came back, meaning that right now Sukuna is at a great state right now. He is almost as strong as ever. Of course he still has a lot of nerfs, but still a lot stronger than he was before, meaning that if Yuji beats him right now in one-on-one combat, it's going to be extremely meaningful. So I think in regards to Yuji and even Sukuna himself, this is a very good thing, the fact that Sukuna came back to his full power with those two black flashes, even though it doesn't really make sense since he was getting hit by Jacob's ladder, which should have been lowering his output, which was already lowered to a disgusting extent, especially after those dismantles. But I guess, you know what, for the sake of just having Yuji beat Sukuna when he's more fresh, I do like that concept at the very least. So yeah, it is pretty wild. And just again, Yuji using domain expansion, the hand sign is really awesome, and it does seem like at the very least he's going to be putting his shrine into the domain expansion. Now it could always be a possibility that we get a mixture of different techniques, so maybe it's shrine alongside blood manipulation, since Yuji does have two curse techniques, but we really haven't seen anyone do this. Even people with multiple techniques such as Yuta and Kenjaku, they could always only put one technique as the sure hit, since to create a domain expansion it actually requires you to embed and infuse a technique into it, so it's not like you can do multiple techniques into it. Of course, I never want to say never, so Yuji could be the first to ever do this, or he could be an exception, and he could try to put two techniques into his sure hit, which again, it's never been done before. Yuji may be the first to do it, but as far as what I think is going to happen, I do think that Yuji's technique is going to have shrine, and this is going to be the main way that he's going to battle Sukuna. And there's always another possibility. It's the fact that what if the sure hit is more so a soul technique, where he's attacking Sukuna's soul rather than actually attacking him with physical attacks. And of course this would make the most sense since Yuji's whole goal right now is to land soul attacks, so it could even be that the sure hit is Cleaviness Mantle, it's Yuji's shrine, but rather than it doing physical damage each time the sure hit hits Sukuna, Sukuna, it just attacks the renders between Sukuna's soul and Megumi's soul, just like he did in the previous chapter when he cleaved and dismantled Sukuna's soul, not his physical body itself. So maybe that's what we'll actually get to see, which would be really insane. And just generally what the domain itself is going to be, I'm very curious. There's so many different possibilities. You know, everyone says it's going to be that boxing ring, which would be pretty cool. It could be a blood palace as well, symbolic of all of the death paintings and his brothers, and especially Choso, who sacrificed himself for Yuji. It could also be a Shimbutsu domain, which I've made a whole video on that specifically, which would be very thematic and definitely go against the whole nature of Sukuna and fit very much in Yuji's character, which has been foreshadowed with the whole Shimbutsu mummification, which we saw on the Sukuna corpse beforehand. Regardless, I think the domain is going to be very cool, and it's just the fact that it's happening. That's the craziest part, the fact that we're actually getting a Yuji domain expansion in one-on-one combat against a fresher Sukuna, who still is nerfed, yes, but he's a lot fresher than he was before after he got his reverse curse technique back, which healed a lot of the issues he had. And here's the craziest part of all this. It seems like Sukuna just wakes up in the train station at the end of the chapter. And in case you didn't notice, the exact pose between Yuji and Sukuna is exactly the same as Geto and Gojo was in the Afterlife. I don't know if GEGE is just hard trolling right now and he really is trying to throw us off, or if he's trying to directly say that Sukuna has already lost and he's in the Afterlife, because if you look at this side by side, yes, it really looks like Sukuna is in the Afterlife, and that's what GEGE is trying to portray with the panels looking exactly the same as you can see on the screen. It could just be GEGE really trolling us, and there's so many different possibilities as to what's going on right here, right now, since the narrator says that the one-on-one domain battle has begun, and the narrator says that both of their decisive battle enters an unknown domain. So the narrator is saying it's not over yet. At the end of the chapter, they're waking up. Seems like in the Afterlife, unless there could be something else going on, and it's that this is more so an actual illusion, a true illusion, rather than an afterlife event. So for example, we've seen Yuji do this before where he's given people fake memories, and he's never done this himself. GEGE has said in an interview, so I can just clarify to you all, that Yuji has no such ability where he gives false memories to people or doing any of this stuff. Both times it was simply a coincidence that people had false memories. Todo's is more so because, you know, he's actually just crazy. I'm not even kidding. That's the whole reason why Todo had those fake memories. And of course Choso's makes a lot of sense, since in case you aren't aware, the whole fake memories that Choso got were actually a side effect of his technique and a side effect of him and Yuji being blood brothers. That's why Choso got those memories. And GEGE again has confirmed already that the memories that both of them got have nothing to do with a Yuji ability. It's simply coincidence that they both got memories and they happen to be fake memories. However, I wonder if GEGE maybe was trying to throw us off and actively lied to us, and maybe Yuji does have some sort of ability where he can actually mess with the memories or create illusions, and this entire time GEGE genuinely just lied to us, and that's what we're seeing now. And maybe his domain actually ties into that. So it could be possible that Yuji's domain is more so an illusionary one, or more so one that actually affects the soul. So maybe GEGE wasn't fully lying. When GEGE said that Yuji doesn't affect people's memories and such, and doesn't create fake memories, maybe that is true, but the reason he said that is because perhaps the details are what's not accurate. So maybe it's like a fake lie from GEGE, and what's really going on was Yuji was actually affecting the souls of Todo and Choso in a way. And maybe that's what he's doing right now with Sukuna, where he's actively affecting his soul with his domain expansion, and this is what's creating all of these illusions and imagery, which sort of creates a pseudo afterlife, which would be pretty wild if that's the case. And again, I'm just wondering what's going on with the whole train station part where Yuji says, let's go Sukuna, you know, where are they going? What does Yuji want to show Sukuna? Why is Yuji so ecstatic and happy? It's just all so interesting, and also it's pretty intriguing that Sukuna is back in his Yuji Kuna form. He's not back in his true form or even his Meguna form, which is also something I'm wondering why. Is it really because their souls are intertwined and their souls have a very deep connection? Even Todo says that there's a deep soul resonance between the two, so is that what's going on right now? Is that why Sukuna appears to be in this form, at least either in the afterlife or in this domain illusion? The fact that the souls are so intertwined that it even makes it that Sukuna appears in his Yuji Kuna form even though he's no longer in Yuji's body, simply because they shared a soul and they're connected in that aspect. That could be the reason why Sukuna is in his Yuji Kuna form. However, one thing's for sure, what I want to see the most is to actually see Yuji's domain expansion, and I want to actually see it damage Sukuna. I want to see the shirt hit go crazy, similar to how when Megumi used his domain expansion we got to see so many new things from it. However, it does seem like Yuji's is probably going to be different from Megumi's, since he did master barrier techniques from Kusakabe, which is also what the narrator said during this chapter too, meaning that at least his barrier techniques and his barrier level should be really good, so he should be able to create a solid domain expansion, and it should be a complete domain expansion, since the whole point of Yuji creating a domain expansion, as was directly implied by the narrator, is the fact that Yuji needs the shirt hit. Yuji doesn't need a general buff, which he's going to get anyway from the domain. What he needs is the shirt hit so he can do the guaranteed soul damage to Sukuna. And again, it's just pretty crazy that Sukuna is seemingly waking up in the afterlife. Of course, I don't think the fight is over. At the very least, if that really is Sukuna waking up in the afterlife, I do think that we will at least get a flashback of the whole fight, so it's not like it just got off screen all of a sudden, but it really could just be a possibility that Yuji and Sukuna's souls affecting one another, and that's what we're getting right now. We're getting the soul resonance that was foreshadowed so many times throughout this entire story, and recently was directly mentioned by Todo, as he said that there's a deep connection between the souls, that they're intertwined. But please, let me know what you think Yuji's domain expansion is going to be, and also what's going on in this train station. I'm most curious about that. Let me know in the comments down below. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. Like I said in the intro, less than 10% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you love JJK, I promise you, you won't regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to all the channel members as well. It's always much appreciated, guys. But that's all from me. Have a great day and take care.